Hey guys, we're back to talk about the Tower of Babel, and that is in Genesis 11. So, we ended on verse 4. We will start on verse 4, but before we do that, I wanted to back up to go to 11:2 to talk about some other ideas about moving east, moving from the east to the east. All right. There are those. I'm reading it, and it says that they set out from the east. So why does this matter? Well, it matters on how you read this. If you say that the ark is found in the mountains of Turkey, all right, Mount Ararat, and I don't really know where. I mean, that's a line of mountains, like the Rocky Mountains. It's a line of mountains. So if it's found in that area in northern Turkey or in Turkey, then they would have to move from the north down, right? They would be moving. So what would that be? That would be to get to the Valley of Shinar. That would mean that they would move southeast, right? Southeast. All right. So the discussion is since it says they set out from the east, that rules out Turkey, because Turkey would be considered the western side, not moving east. So I wonder if sometimes people see it as moving east because of where it is in Turkey. The other thought of, if it's in Iran, which I know I said last time, well, it couldn't be in Iran if they're having to move east. That would be moving west. However, if they moved from the east, that would mean that they are moving west. That would mean that it could be in the mountains of Iran. It could be in Pakistan or India. It would be east. So there's the discussion that there is no northern movement. So if you're in Turkey, you have to move, not northern, southern, you'd have to move south down to Shinar. Here, the suggestion is, no, it's clearly from the east. So, again, depending on how you read it, depends on what you find and don't find. And I know that there are discussions, and I remember back in the 70s going to watch this presentation by an archaeologist about talking about finding the ark. I mean, it was very convincing, and yes, the ark's been found, and that was in the mountains of Turkey. But then you'd have some who say that cannot be it. It could be something, but it's not going to be the ark, because they moved from the east, which would mean that they would have to be, you need to go look in Iran or the Indian mountains, something that's letting you go east. So find where Babylon is, look to the east, and then see where they would have traveled from the east, meaning moving west, a little bit more on a a little bit more on a even plane, not going south, but just going west. Again, so many things to talk about, because again, it says from the east. So I don't know, they could, just as long as they're moving west, they could go southwest, northwest, whatever. There's so many possibilities. What a great thing for a treasure hunter, to be able to look at these and really divide it and figure out what is being hinted to in order to locate the ark. I personally believe that in the end, as we move closer to the end, the ark will be found. I do think so. And it may not be till Messiah is reigning, when Jesus comes and reigns 1,000 years, that he's like, by the way, there's the ark. Definitely could be. Whatever. I think it's going to be fabulous, and things will become even clearer as we do find that. Anyway, just want to throw that out there so that you're in no way limited on reading something or already given a preconceived idea. I want you to be able to really read it and think outside the box and look at all the different facets that are there. All right. We also talked about the living stone idea, how we are living stones in uniqueness, and making of bricks is the conforming to man's ways, not the uniqueness that the Lord put in us to be part of his body, to be to represent him. Because think about it, the living God has so many amazing facets, and all of those facets are in his creation. We cannot ignore that. We've got to be able to look at it all to even get a glimpse of how mighty and how great he is. All right, verse 4. And they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower, whose top is in the heaven, and make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered all over the face of the earth. As we said before, kind of have a Cain idea, where told to go out and scatter in order to populate the earth. And they're not so much doing that. They've gone to this Valley of Shinar. I would suggest that Nimrod, as we see in chapter 10, Nimrod is very much in control. He is the king. He's the leader who's saying, let's do this. Let's build a name for ourselves. Again, mimicking the Genesis 1, where the Lord says, let us build man or make man in our image, right? There's the oneness working together in order to, I feel like here is man, here's Nimrod trying to go back to that oneness a little too early. We know that in the end, in the 1,000-year reign and back in with New Jerusalem, that there will be a oneness back just like it was in the garden. But it can't happen until the Lord's perfect timing, which will be then. Here we have the one language, we have let's build it, right? Let's all be alike. And then they're going to try to build. And we talked about the ziggurat. They're not trying to build a tower to heaven like literally they think they're going to climb a ladder and make it to God's door, knock and go, move out. That's not what they're doing. Let's go back to the understanding of Nimrod wanting to be and becoming a mighty man. That wanting to move into the heavenly realm of power, not just the earthly realm of power. It is suggested that the ziggurat was actually the first of a temple to false gods. Now, let's go into our sci-fi, crazy stuff. We talked about fallen angels. I would suggest that Nimrod, in whatever capacity, whether he is working with fallen angels, whether he's working with Nephilim, because again, let's remember, this is 340 years. Now, in 340 years is when the Tower of Babel happened. It didn't just start there. There were years of preparing. There were years of Nimrod hunting and scaring and bringing in people to agree with them. I would suggest that there were people who were not in Nimrod's, under Nimrod's power. I would suggest that there are people who said, no, I'm going to do what the Lord said, and have moved out. And by moving out, they're safe. I would suggest that this one language of Hebrew, that everyone who was not around the Tower of Babel, I think they kept the language of Hebrew. Wouldn't it be interesting if Eber and his family were not at the tower, and therefore they were preserved in the Hebraic language, and they were called the Hebrews because they crossed over, meaning they remained, well, I mean, I know there's a lot of things with the crossover, but they remained obedient. And that's definitely what Shem would want to be involved in, right? He's the obedient son, okay? Shem is the one who is carrying on the blessing of Noah to his children. I would suggest to Eber, and then it continues on. All right. So we have this whole heavenly thing. A stargate. If you've ever heard of a stargate, it is a portal. It's a portal that connects spiritually different realms. We live in 4 dimensions. Before the fall of man, I would suggest we are in 10 to 12 dimensions in which we will return to in eternity. So it's possible that in entertaining fallen ones and Nephilim, that there is a reach, to reach for the heavens, meaning to go into the realm of these false gods in order to gain the power, in order to take over the heavenlies. There's more than just an earthly fight happening here. There is a heavenly battle as well. And that also means over souls. Nimrod is wreaking havoc. He is ruling. He is forcing people into a type of slavery, possibly, to build bricks, just like we have with Pharaoh. Pharaoh in Egypt, is that right? Yeah, Pharaoh in Egypt are just mimicking Nimrod and Babylon. So here we have this. They are supposed to scatter. They're trying to go up to the heavenlies. They're reaching up. There's false religion. Babylon. In the end, Mystery Babylon, she will fall. Okay, remember the bookend idea? Here we have Babylon, Tower of Babel falling. And in Revelation 18:19, or I think it's 17:18, 18, we have Mystery Babylon falling. Hello? All right, bookends. We got to know the beginning from the end. So they have taken the idea of the stars. Let's look at this. In the heavens, the Lord put the entire chapter 5 of Genesis, chapter 5 has all the names, and all the names point to the whole plan of the Lord coming to redeem his creation, right? As we would say, plan of salvation, but not just on a personal, I mean on a global scale, all right? This, I believe, is also in the stars. But here at the Tower of Babel, there's a perversion of the stars, again, to take over power. There's a perversion that's giving identity of deities, of false gods, to these stars, renaming it. So now it becomes this group effort to be one to replace the living God. It's the wrong oneness. It's the wrong group effort. They're not doing it to bring glory to God. They're bringing it to bring glory to themselves in order to replace God. So some will say it's a Stargate. Now, I'm sure that there are others who are like, what are you talking about? There's no such thing. Well, even in today's society, if you check out CERN, that is in Europe, I believe it's in Switzerland, you can go and look at some of the things they're trying to do. And some of it is reported that they're trying to open these wormholes, these portals, these stargates. Again, they're doing the same thing that they did here in Babylon. They're trying to get this oneness in order to invite what's out there, in order to reach out, in order to communicate with something greater, in order to gain more power. So it's just, well, it's the weakness of our flesh, just desiring to have control over our lives, control over others, control over what God's supposed to control. So let's go look in verse 5. And Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. You notice that God's not with them? He was with them in the ark. And now he sends them out. Do you remember that when the Lord left, or had Adam and Eve leave the garden, he left with them? When he had Noah and everyone leave the ark, he left with them. But there comes a point somewhere in this 340 years that he is no longer with them. They've moved out and he has removed himself. Maybe he's been kicked out. It's possible that him coming down just means he's not with them, but he could still be with some others. But notice that it says he came down. Nimrod is having, and his group, they're building up, and he's coming down. He's coming down to see this city that the sons of men, not sons of God, sons of men. Genesis 6, men were perverting them, corrupting themselves. Genesis 11, we're already there after 340 years. They're corrupting themselves by taking on this grab of power. And they built. All about them, right? What they did, what they built. Verse 6, and Yahweh said, look, they are one people, and they all have one language, and this is what they began to do. Like, of all the things you could do, this is what you did? You want to grab a name for yourself? You want to build to try to open and enter into the other realms? This is what of all the greatness you could do, this is what you chose to do. And now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. In other words, their desires, in that oneness, their desires can be satisfied, all of them. I truly believe that when we go back to Adam and Eve and we continue, they were the smartest. They had the most knowledge. They weren't dumb. They weren't cavemen. They had a download. Adam and Eve were created with perfection. They had a download of information. And this information, people are living for hundreds of years. Can you imagine what can be taught? To someone who's 500 years old, all the things that they've learned in 500 years is in that one person that they can teach others. Learning is exponential with this age because you have this knowledge base of teaching from Noah, and then from Shem, and then from the others that are teaching and passing these things on. So I would suggest that it's not that The Lord wasn't freaked out about it. He's just, okay, they've hit the point now of learning to work together in order to achieve anything. God, I see that today. We're going to work together in the world. They want to work together as one. They want to make everyone the same, right? As bricks. And that is going to be so what? So they can achieve this ultimate power. But what good is it when you really look around at the goal? What is the profitability of man as far as improving the relationship with the living God, which is eternal? It's not. That oneness is actually, of the world government idea, is actually oppressing man. It's actually doing the exact opposite of what they want to declare is going to happen. Same thing here. Nimrod is like, let us build, let us do this. Yet Nimrod's the one going, you guys do this, you guys do that, as he's becoming mighty. You see that? Talk and actions are not lining up. And the Lord's like, look, it's working. We need to stop this. Not because the living God was afraid, but there is a plan, and you'll get there too quickly if this continues. The Lord needs everything to play out in order for his people, for Abraham to come, for Israel to be birthed, for all these examples, for the Exodus of Egypt to happen, for all of these great witnesses to be created, for the angels themselves to watch how man will respond and how the Lord's faithful to his word. All that has to happen. Therefore, we're going to scatter them because it's a little too early. So we're going to scatter them. So the Lord says, come, let us go there and confuse their language so that they do not understand one another's speech. So everyone who's working together, who's making these plans, suddenly can't talk. Can you imagine? I would suggest that this happened before they opened that portal. Totally merciful God. The Lord's like, look, in Revelation, we're going to have that. We know that in Revelation, we've got the 3 frogs coming out of the mouth. We've got some crazy stuff happening. We have this interaction. But not yet. It's too early. Don't open that Stargate. Don't open it. I'm suggesting that this Stargate or this entity, whatever it is, did not open. I'm suggesting that the zodiac, the definition, the changing the meanings of the story of the stars, this zodiac is what was the earthly product of their trying to enter into the heavenlies. And that's all we got. We didn't get that great entry like they wanted. Just suggestion. Now, it's also said that it's possible that that is what brought in the fallen angels again, just like we talked about in the book of Enoch that talks about from Mount Hermon that they come down, about 200 of them, I believe, of the fallen angels come down, and then that's what starts the line with the Nephilim. Possible. It's said that maybe this is where the next line of fallen angels came from, came through this inviting of the portal. Very possible too. There's so many things we don't know, but it's so much fun to think about them and really kind of dig through the ashes to be able to understand what the Lord is looking at and going, not going to happen. So let's look right here in verse 8. And the Lord Yahweh, the merciful one, again, the merciful, not the creator who could just smush them and the judge, but the merciful one, scattered them from there over the face of the earth, and they left off building the city. And so now we know the city wasn't finished. The temple wasn't finished being built. Verse 9, and that's why its name is called Babel, because there the Lord Yahweh confused the language of all the earth, and from there Yahweh scattered them over the face of the earth. So basically what happened is the Lord said, I need you guys to scatter and populate the earth. They said no. He said fine. You didn't want to do it the easy way. You'll do it the hard way. And he still scatters them because his plan is going to happen regardless. A star that refuses to shine, that becomes a black hole, still will bring glory to the Lord. It doesn't really matter. I mean, us accepting Jesus or not accepting Jesus, us accepting the power of the living God or not accepting the power of the living God, does not change the entire story. It just changes in what manner we're going to bring glory to him. The idea of, I would rather fall upon the stone than the stone fall upon me. And Jesus is the stone. Again, not a brick, but the stone. I'd rather fall upon the stone than the stone fall upon me. Because see, no matter what, there's a stone. No matter what, Jesus is the cornerstone. How are we going to respond to that? That's what matters. This story, you got both sides. But it didn't matter. You're going to move out. Easy way, hard way. I would like to live on the easy way. So I'm trying to be obedient to the living God whenever told to do something. When I read in the Bible and he says, this is what I want my people to do, I'm like, okay, Lord, help me to do that. I don't want to have to learn the hard way. But sometimes it's the best way we learn, and then we're even a better example to others because we learned it the hard way. But again, the Tower of Babel is learning the hard way. We don't know what happens to Nimrod. We don't know if he's dead. We don't know exactly what happens. I would suggest that he lives and he continues on with his mayhem in a different way. So again, this doesn't say that Babel isn't built. It just says that the Tower of Babel isn't built. It does say that they're sent out. Okay, so back at verse 8, scattered them from there over the face of the earth, and they left off building the city. So Babylon, though, we know does get built. So that tells me that there's something here. This is the Babylon area. But apparently this is not Babylon, because we know Babylon is built. And they left. And maybe Nimrod comes back and builds a city, but the oneness doesn't build the city. Lots of different ways to look at that. So we did finish the Tower of Babel. Please remember, Noah is alive during this time. Shem is alive during this time. We've got Eber during alive at this time. And I again would suggest that for whatever reason, when everyone's language would change, Eber's language did not change. Shem's line, I would suggest that from Shem, the line of Messiah, the line that Jesus comes through, where I said Eber's the fourth, that somewhere in there, theirs didn't change. Is it because they weren't present at the actual Babylon building? Possibly. Maybe Eber wasn't there. I like to think Eber wasn't there because he was being obedient. That's what I like to think. The only problem is we end up with one of his sons, Terah, who is worshiping idols in the Babylonian area, in Ur. So, I don't know. Does that mean they go later? I don't know. But lots of great things to look at. When we come back, we will finish chapter 11, which will move us into Abraham. All right. Thanks for spending time with me. We went a little long, but there's just so much to talk about. And I didn't even touch on half of it with the Tower of Babel. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for spending time with me. Bye.